Another week, another slide for undefeated USC in the top 25 poll. J.C. Jackson either didn't want to play for the Chargers or he never learned to tie his shoes. And Bobby Miller will start with the season on the line for the Dodgers tonight, to which he says, Namaste. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. And boy, is it early in the morning on October 9th, 2023. I'll be heading over to the airport later, going to fly home while this clip posts, so that when I get home, I can spend the rest of the day staring at my blushing bride until she becomes really creeped out. But until then, let's be happy and talk LA. If you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button, clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment, because it's always good when you're talking LA sports. So before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Yesterday, Cooper Kupp made his return to the Rams for the first time since week 10 of last year. Caught 8 passes for 118 yards. But Philadelphia got the victory, 23-14 over the Rams. LA, they simply didn't score in the second half. Philly made adjustments, the Rams didn't. Straight and simple. Meanwhile, Savannah McCaskill's second half stoppage time goal lifts Angel City FC to a 2-1 victory over Houston. Angel City is still alive for the final spot in the NWSL playoff spot. They have one game left in the regular season. We have to wait a week. Meanwhile, today in Game 2 of the National League Divisional Series, Arizona's at the Dodgers tonight. Bobby Miller versus Zach Gallen. Arizona leads the series 1-0. But before we talk Dodger baseball, let's dial it back and talk about college football. First, let's welcome UCLA back to the top 25. And I realize that sounds a little snarky, but honestly, there's no snark intended. The Bruins would be scary as hell if only Dante Moore was a junior. Could you imagine that defense, plus the skill positions, plus an experienced quarterback? They'd be an absolute holy terror for virtually any team in the country. As it is right now, they're just tough as hell, thanks to that defense. And it's important to mention that because it's been a mantra that I've been reciting ever since the bowl season ended. The first school to sanity wins. Could have been USC, could be UCLA. The first school to embrace sanity, i.e. playing defense. And let's be real, that brings us over to 10th ranked USC. Still undefeated USC. Still with the Heisman winner at quarterback, USC. Still dropping in the polls for 3 consecutive weeks. They are now ranked 10th. Texas has a loss, for Pete's sake. They're coached by a guy who was too drunk to keep the Trojans' job a few years ago, and they're still ranked higher than USC. You almost wonder what you got to do. Do you have to get Lincoln Riley drunk off his ass for a year in front of the boosters? And I got to tell you something. You're even tempted to ask if USC will drop in the polls if they go into South Bend and beat the Fighting Irish, 21st ranked Notre Dame. The opinion that the scribes have of the Trojans literally is that bad. And I got to tell you something, because I have been belly aching about Alex Grinch for about a calendar year. Alex Grinch and that roadkill defense that he throws out there. But 10th ranked in the country is too low. It's too low. USC may be half a team, but the half a team that they do have is amazing. The Trojans are averaging 50 points per game. 50 points per game. So until they zig, I'm going to zig while the other scribes zag. I do understand the hatred for USC. Being ranked 10th and they're undefeated is way too low. Straight and simple. Will there be a change, by the way, on the Trojans' offensive line? It's a fair question. See, Caleb Williams was getting blasted Saturday. He was sacked 3 times in the first quarter alone. But there was an adjustment made by Lincoln Riley. He brought in Mason Murphy to replace right tackle Michael Tarkin, and things stabilized. So you have to wonder if this guy's going to get his first start on the road against the Trojans' biggest rival. We mentioned UCLA's defense. You know, UCLA has not finished higher than 73rd in scoring defense during the entirety of the Chip Kelly era. Now, they're in the top 10, just like that. And I want to be honest with you. I run a show as part of this channel on Friday nights, Friday Night Chalk Talk, where I break down things with the local football teams as they go into the weekend. I am dying to break down what DeAnton Lynn is doing for the Bruins, because the turnaround is just chef's kiss. It's amazing. But to be frank, there's 2 problems. One, it's really, really hard to get intel on UCLA athletics, particularly with the football team. And I might not do it this week because it is USC versus Notre Dame. Just saying. Just saying. Did you have a feeling that another shoe was going to drop after the Chargers traded away cornerback J.C. Jackson? Right? Why abandon ship after barely a year when you gave this lockdown cornerback, just backed up the Brinks truck, had that thing tip over, and just spill all the money all over his family? You knew it wasn't just simply because he got hurt last year. Well, if you think shoes are going to drop, you better cover your head, because more shoes are going to fall than a Nike factory on the San Andreas Fault. Jackson allegedly refused to play against the Raiders last week. This is according to NFL Network. He dressed. He was supposed to play. He just wouldn't get into the game. The dude didn't even tie his shoes, for Pete's sake, which kind of makes you a slob, right? But then he wouldn't even go in when Michael Davis turned an ankle. So Davis stayed in with a bum ankle for virtually every defensive snap. Jackson wouldn't even help out his own teammate. Now, I don't know if this story is true. It was reported by 2 guys from the NFL Network. So that would lead you to believe there are multiple sources. And if it is true, all I'm going to tell you is that's a punk move. No matter how much you hate being on a team, you don't send somebody out there injured when you could at least go out there and half-ass it, for Pete's sakes. I mean, if you want off the roster so bad, why didn't you just ask for nudes from the owner's wife or something? Craziness. Bobby Miller said tonight's playoff spot is an honor for him. After all, he is a rookie. Dodgers and coach's teammates said that he deserved the spot, particularly because he adjusted about halfway through the year. He would get too amped up during a start, and then about a little more than a month ago, Dave Roberts and pitcher Lance Lynn pulled him aside and told him he had to maintain, bro. Had to maintain. That they love him being so competitive, but that adrenaline rush that you get when you start to get frustrated, eventually the adrenaline tapers off and it tuckers you out. Lynn told the LA Times, hey, he was the same way, especially earlier in his career. Now Miller gets the message, and instead of just going out there and pitching 4 or 5 innings, he's now pitching 6, sometimes 7. So he's stretching his outings out much more because he has the energy. LA, it's important for them. They need to find somebody who can get them into the 7th inning, because then they feel like they have 2 setup men and a closer that can wrap it up. Now, what does Miller do to calm down? I don't know. They didn't say. I don't know if he found his chi. I don't know if he takes baths with aromatherapy and Gregorian chanting. My wife claims crystals keep her calm. Yeah. Really docile. I've said this before, by the way, staying on the Dodgers. One of the reasons that this channel exists is to cut through the panic porn that so many sports writers want to force you to go through, particularly during the playoffs. Every playoff win, the scribes will get together and they'll write it up like you've just downed a fistful of Viagra and are on a Pornhub binge. And every playoff loss, they basically make you want to lie in a bathtub, listen to some Lana Del Rey, and just drag the knife right over your wrist. It's very disturbing the way that these guys approach the playoffs. And the latest example is this from a scribe. The Dodgers say Clayton Kershaw is the only option to start Game 4. But can they even get there? Really, guys? I mean, it was one game. It was a terrible game. But it was just one game. Trust me. Assume for the moment Bobby Miller goes out there tonight and is just lights out. The script will completely flip. All of a sudden, the Arizona Diamondbacks are bleeding out on the street and the Dodgers are ascending up to Mount Sinai. It's going to be the exact opposite. I swear to God, some of these scribes out there, it's like they're fluffers or something. Like somebody moved all the newspapers out to San Fernando Valley. Just a thought. The Galaxy were eliminated a couple of days ago, and manager Greg Vanney described the drama as, quote, like 5 seasons worth of challenges inside of one, unquote, which is a fair assessment. It is. But unless you're willing to be honest with yourself, there won't be any hope for next year either. Because if you are honest with yourself, Mr. Vanney, much of that drama was self-inflicted. Much of it was self-inflicted, starting with AEG's decision to keep Chris Klein as president. Had AEG purged that cancer of the presidential role simply by letting his contract expire at the end of 2022, it would have immediately ridded the franchise of a half a season of distracting acrimony. Would have been gone. And for that matter, here's another thing that was self-inflicted for the Galaxy. Why not invest in a better training staff? Oh, fans love to bandy about the names of players all over the place, but it's not going to help if they're getting injured all the time. Almost half of the starting lineup wound up not finishing the season due to injuries. That's the second thing. The third thing I would like to talk about with the Galaxy not qualifying for the playoffs is I have seen the calls online to fire Greg Vanney, but I'm skeptical that that's going to happen. When Klein was ousted, Vanney took over everything on the soccer side, and with that role comes power. Everyone answers to him on the soccer side. So unless you're talking some Game of Thrones knives out kind of crap, he's probably staying in the job during the offseason. And I don't think AEG President Dan Beckerman wants the headache of replacing an entire front office. But if you are a Galaxy fan, I do have a suggestion, because I am too a Galaxy fan. Consider promoting Greg Vanney. Hear me out. Hear me out before you get mad. I'm not saying make him run everything with the Galaxy like Chris Klein. I'm not saying boost him up to AEG. I'm saying tell him to promote himself to general manager. Have him hire the next manager so that guy takes care of the in-game decisions. Vanney gets to oversee the technical aspects, the on-field product. He works with the other people in the front office to decide what type of players are needed. And then you go out and hire another manager. Pro soccer, by the way, has been halted in Israel for obvious reasons. That makes Robbie Keane a possibility. Let me know what you think. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reported that the Clippers want a trade for James Harden, but will not increase the existing offer because they think they are the only team bidding. So we're at the same impasse that we were 2 months ago. Look, a lot of people love Adrian Wojnarowski. I love Adrian Wojnarowski. This isn't news. It's not even an update. It's like, hey, it's like me coming up to you and go, hey everybody, there's a conflict in the Middle East. No bleep. And I hate myself for bringing up the Middle East conflict right now over what happened last weekend. But there we are. We already knew there's a conflict there. We already know the Clippers can't trade for James Harden. So what are we talking about? Here's a plot twist for the Kings. We've been forecasting that Jarrett Anderson-Dolan would fill in for Arthur Kaliev. Because, I should say, would fill in for Arthur Kaliev while he is suspended. Figured it would happen because Anderson-Dolan could slide in under the cap. And boy, was I wrong. That is not happening. Anderson-Dolan was placed on waivers. Now, if he clears waivers, he can go to the AHL affiliate over in Ontario. But to be honest with you, what does that serve? If you've seen Anderson-Dolan, he always struck me as the equivalent of what baseball scouts call a quadruple A player. And if you follow baseball, you're like, wait a second, James, there is no such thing as quadruple A. To which I would say you're right. It's basically meaning he's too good for the minors at AAA, not good enough for the major leagues. That to me is Jarrett Anderson-Dolan. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me if you think USC is getting the shaft in the polls now, being undefeated. Talk to me about J.C. Jackson and his choice in footwear. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corta El Queso production. Take care.